Welcome to our Common Core Expert Cohort. This is Session 1. My name is Daniela Fountain. I'm the Pre-K 4th grade Curriculum Coordinator here at Troy, and we also have with us Sarah Cacciatore, our 5A Curriculum Coordinator. We want to welcome all Troy staff and our neighbors Manhattan, Elwood, Joliet 86, Joliet Township High School, and Rockdale. We're very excited that Common Core has brought us together and that we're building our professional learning community with our neighbors close by.
Hi, my name is Sarah. As Daniela just pointed out, thank you for that warm introduction from her. Just to talk about our goals, not only for this particular session, but really what we're trying to accomplish across our 4 sessions, is to use a variety of strategies to develop an awareness of the Common Core state standards and the implementation at all of our different grade levels. We really want to make sure that as new information comes available, we can share that with you to keep all of us up to date on current changes. It seems like as we check our websites daily, there's new information posted. And also, and probably the most important, we want to talk about how to take these theories that are shared through the Common Core state standards and really apply them into our instructional practice. How does this look on a daily basis in front of the students? If you have any questions, please feel free to email either myself or Daniela anytime throughout the cohort. And if you have any more logistical type questions, if you could also send them to us at this point, that way we can make sure that you're getting up-to-date information.
In order to fully participate in our discussions, we have assigned pre-readings through our Zoono web quest. So to be active in each of our sessions, we ask that you complete all pre-reading assignments and activities. Those Troy certified staff who are interested in obtaining board credit, this is a friendly reminder to go online through our HR website and submit your request for board credit. Your readings for today's session really prepared you on our Common Core state standards and their background, mostly the overview and how we've gotten here. When we talk about why in these standards, we have Common Core standards designed to ensure that all students who graduate are prepared for college and prepared to enter the workforce, and that all parents and students and teachers know and are aware of their expectations. ACT defined the college and career readiness as the level of achievement a student needs to be ready in order to enroll and succeed in post-secondary courses without remediation, and that will be key as we move forward with the Common Core standards. Today, the workplace readiness demands the same level of knowledge as college and career readiness.
In terms of what the Common Core standards are, they really have been informed by the best available evidence and the highest state standards across the country and the globe that are designed by a group of diverse teachers, experts, parents, school administrators, and that they really reflect both our aspirations for our students as well as the realities of the classroom. You read all about this in the CCSSO article, but the federal government was really not involved in the development of these standards. Individual states have chosen whether or not to adopt them on their own or in their state governments. Parents, teachers, school administrators, and experts from across the country were really gathered with the state leaders to provide the group called the Council of Chief State School Officers, which is how the CCSSO came to be. Also, another important group that was part of this process was the National Governors Association Center for Best Practices, and their acronym is the NGA Center. Both of those groups are really leading the efforts in terms of developing the Common Core state standards. When they first put out the drafts of this, they did make it public March 10th of 2010, and 9,600 comments were received. 48% of the respondents were K-12 teachers, 20% were parents, 6% were school administrators, 5% were post-secondary instructors, 2% were students, and 2% were categorized as other. And that other group really represented early childhood teachers, librarians, grandparents, etc. Currently, We have 45 states participating. The 5 who have not adopted are Alaska, Texas, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Virginia. And for the purposes of content, we have new content standards in math, and we have new content standards in ELA. When I talk about ELA, that stands for English Language Arts, and that means that there are content-specific standards for both your traditional English teacher as well as your other content areas who are also providing reading instruction. At the K-5 level, it is assumed that it's one self-contained teacher teaching all science, social studies, math, English, etc. And so those ELA standards are really intended to be used across each content. When you get to grades 6 through 12, it is more common for teachers to be content specific. So they do provide specific standards for your traditional English reading and writing teacher, as well as they provide reading and writing standards for 6 through 12 science teachers, social studies teachers, and technology teachers. We are not talking about specific science content. We're talking about reading and writing standards within those other content areas. In terms of when the science and social studies content standards will be released, they are still in their projected states, and depending on who you talk to and which website you refer to, there's a plethora of release dates, ranging anywhere from the end of this year to having the draft versions being released in a year and a half. As we learn new information, we'll share that with you as well.
The next part of our cohort session was to engage in conversation from the WebQuest readings on the Myths vs. Fact article and the ACT PISA brief. You'll find our first activity was based off of the Myths vs. Facts, and we did a Save the Last Word protocol, and you'll find those questions below. The second activity allowed for us to answer 2 questions from the ACT PISA brief in terms of how do we address the college and career readiness standards in all grade levels K-12.
The question of why address the practices and the capacities has come up, and so we want to take a minute to address those 2 items. The capacities of a literate individual are really components that are one of the biggest shifts of the Common Core state standards, more so than the content itself. We're really looking at addressing what the student is able to demonstrate and what the student needs to do successfully in order to be college and career ready. We also have been spending a lot of time with the 8 mathematical practices. They too are a very large component of the new Common Core state standards for math content. These 8 practices really, once again, address the student expectation in being able to demonstrate not only that they know the math skill, but they're able to articulate it, share it with others, use all of their reasoning strategies using perseverance, etc.
Let's dig a little deeper with CLI, which stands for Capacities of a Literate Individual. These can be found on page 7 of your Common Core documents, and you'll notice that the way that they are written, they all start with the word they. And when we think about what the word they means, it refers to our students. And that's really what Sarah mentioned Common Core was all about. So looking at the first one, they demonstrate independence, here you'll find that teachers are shifting their roles more to a facilitator and students are becoming self-directed learners. Students really are the ones doing all the learning, and they're at the center of our instructional focus. When we talked about the definition of college and career readiness, that's stated without remediation. So the goal of students demonstrating independence really aligns with the college and career readiness standards and the fact that students are doing so without any assistance. Harry Wong says, Whoever is the most tired at the end of the day is the one who did the most learning. This relates right back to this practice as ask yourself at the end of the day, are you more tired than your students? And then that's a great way to measure whether or not students have demonstrated their independence.
Not only do students need to build their independence, but they also need to have a strong content knowledge over a variety of genres, which is why those ELA standards in science, social studies, and technology are such a wonderful addition to what we're starting to teach now. We really want to make sure that we're using a variety of resources. Magazines, textbooks, novels all require different reading strategies in order to understand their material. And so it's important for us to not only use them as part of our instruction, be able to teach reading strategies that meet those individual needs. Reading directions alone sometimes takes us a while, and so this really speaks to students being able to work together, read purposefully, listen attentively in order to have successful outcomes.
The third capacity of a literate individual is to respond to the varying demands of the audience, task, purpose, and discipline. What this really means is that students are able to read an audience and determine the context in verbal situations as well as written. Sarah talked a lot about reading and the differences that it could be in a magazine or in a newspaper article. In the same sense, writing is also different. When you think about writing in a science lab, that report is concrete and factual. Yet when you think about writing a biography for history, there's a lot more linguistics going on through the use of adjectives and describing statements. So students now must be able to adapt how they communicate. They must be able to determine their academic conversations and their social language conversations and choose which of those would be most appropriate for the context they're in.
The fourth capacity is having students be able to comprehend as well as critique. This is really going beyond just your average listening skills. It requires the students to be able to listen attentively, internalize what information is being given, process that in terms of how does that relate to me, how does that relate to others, how does that relate to the world, and then be able to provide relevant feedback or follow-up questions based on what information they've just gathered. At the elementary level, this really comes naturally to students, that whole sense of curiosity and a lot of questioning and, having great discussions just generated based on student interest. For some reason, as the students get older and enter middle school, they're less likely to ask questions to build increased knowledge. So we really need to keep that curiosity going as they move up into the upper grades.